nice enough to come and kind of give us an idea of what she's seeing in the community. My working from home desk today happens to be outside. It's beautiful out, and I may or may not have any furniture in my house right now with the move. So actually, a little bit of lighting issues I'm having. So, but thanks for being here. What can you tell us? What are you seeing happening in Baldwinsville?
Well, Shelly, first, thanks for having me on your live stream. I wish I could tell you what is happening in Baldwinsville, but as we were discussing earlier, I live in Manlius, so working from home, it's been tough for me to be disconnected from Baldwinsville and Liverpool and North Syracuse, which are the communities that I cover for Eagle. So that's really been the hardest part of social distancing for me, to still be trying to get the news out, but not being as connected to the people that rely on the Messenger and the Eagle Star Review for news. It's hard because I'm used to going to meetings in the evenings. I'm used to connecting with people. I'm used to seeing my coworkers in the office. And while I did a fair amount of my work from home before, now it's 100% remote, and it is very limiting sometimes.
And I think, like you pointed out, we see you so much in Baldwinsville and writing articles and lifting up what people are doing that we take for granted that you live in the area because you know so much about it and you do such a good job.
Right. Sometimes I feel like I live in Baldwinsville, but
no, I can see why. So you're like the most of us following more on social media, right? What's happening or
right. Yep. I'm always getting alerts from the county, from the state, from other news agencies like CNY Central and News Channel 9, Spectrum, Syracuse.com. So it's really an all hands on deck thing right now, especially the first week that schools were shut down, not last week, but the week before. It was just constant updates from the county executive and constantly sharing stuff on social media and making sure like the most recent information was out for people to get what they needed to take care of their children. And I think for me especially, it was a big focus was getting out the information where people can get meals if they're struggling, because so many families, even in Baldwinsville, rely on the free or reduced lunch in schools. And if it weren't for our schools, there would be a huge number of kids who wouldn't eat breakfast or lunch that day. And I mean, the Baldwinsville Rotary and the Beefle program at the school, they work really hard during regular circumstances during the school year to make sure kids can go home with a backpack of food for the weekend. So they've really kicked into overdrive to provide extra snacks and backpacks for kids now during the COVID shutdown.
Well, and the nice thing about it, if there is anything nice about this, is it forced them, I know Rotary, to go into overdrive, and they are now providing food for almost 200 more kids than they were prior to this happening. And they're getting the systems in place. They're knowing how much food they need to have to do this. So I was talking to Lizzie Martin, who's the president of Rotary here in Baldwinsville, and she said next year they should be able to service more kids from the get-go, because so you never want to say something positive came out of a bad situation,
right.
But sometimes
you do always want to look for the silver lining.
Yeah, you do. So and I know you've been following the Baldwinsville Helping Baldwinsville site as well, correct?
Yes, I did a story and I interviewed Pam a couple weeks ago for that, and I interviewed her, it was maybe a week after she'd started the group, and at that point she had 2,000 members, and now I think she's up to 3,000 plus. And I'm in the group myself, and it's been a really amazing resource for Baldwinsville. I've seen people crowdsourcing toilet paper. I've seen them, taking pics from Wegmans on 31, or even places out in Cicero, like, this place has toilet paper, this place has Lysol wipes, and people crowdsourcing specific foods for kids with dietary needs. There's a mother on there who asked for a specific kind of ham because her son had very specific dietary restrictions, and she just had like a flood of comments, people saying, I have this kind of ham, I can get you a package of this. And she ended up closing the comments because she had so much help that she didn't even need all that ham probably. But I just think that's so amazing. And it's for the 5.5 years that I've been covering Baldwinsville, this is really indicative of what kind of community Beeville is, that people have come together to help Meals on Wheels, to help Rotary, to help the school, to help the Baldwinsville Community Food Pantry, to just make sure we're there for our neighbors. And really, you're my virtual neighbors, but I do feel that I am at least tangentially part of the Beeville community, having covered it so long. And I'm getting a little choked up actually, but it's just so amazing to see people come together. And a lot of Facebook groups can struggle with keeping civil discourse, and I've seen a lot of Facebook groups devolve into nasty squabbles in the comments section, and Pam and her administrators are doing a really good job of keeping a lid on that and making sure, as she says, to keep everyone playing nice in the sandbox.
Right.
And I really commend her and her fellow community members who have stepped up to help moderate the group. I've seen overwhelming positivity from that group and from other spaces on social media coming out of Beeville. I just think it's really amazing to see your neighbors coming together and helping each other out in such a time of uncertainty and need.
Yeah, and you're right. Same as you. There's all kinds of groups out there, and I've seen where it starts to get a little bit maybe on the negative side, and instantly someone comes in and just says, not in a condescending kind of way, just say, "Hey, we're here to help. Let's keep it positive," which is hard to do with 3,000 people in a Facebook group. So
yeah, it's impressive, and it's really great that she's got people who have stepped up and taken different roles. I know she's got neighborhood representatives or advocates checking on seniors in their apartment complexes and checking on their neighbors. She has Jen Gilliland made the spreadsheet of restaurants and businesses that are open and their contact info. So,
and that's really good because it's a Google Doc, so it can be updated, because sometimes a restaurant will close for a few days to regroup and then reopen.
Sure.
So it's constantly updated. And I saw restaurants just reach out and say, "Hey, we're here too." So it was a way to gather more information on some of them. It is, it's a shame some of the restaurants did end up having to close down, either for the health of their employees or different reasons. But I don't know if, since you're not here, I can tell you that, Sal's, Pizza Man, Tassone's, the Canal Walk, the community's just, whether they have food at home or not, they're still ordering out. We're doing what we can to keep those businesses so that when this is all done and we can get back to dining in, there's still restaurants to dine in at in Baldwinsville. So I talked to Luke Delia, who's one of the owners of Pizza Man, and he said the response is just unbelievable. People ordering food and eating outside. Atlantic Seafood, they made like a pickup window on a Friday because it was so busy. It's during Lent. People want their fish.
They want their fish,
yeah. So it's
especially
been great.
with the local churches not being able to have worship or have their fish fries. It's really nice that they're finding ways to get around it. And speaking of churches, at least St. Mark's, and I'm not sure if any of the other ones have done this, but St. Mark's has they're working on a YouTube channel to put worship services on. They had drive-through communion, so they're still working to connect with their congregation during Lent. And in times of trouble, people do turn to religion and to worship, and it's nice to know that they can still do that in their faith community and still maintain social distancing and keep themselves safe and keep their congregation's health safe.
Well, and if I understand correctly, the government didn't necessarily shut down the churches, but the churches made the decision because they wanted to keep people safe. And there is at least one more, if not two churches in the community that are trying out the technical stuff to bring it online. There's one minister that's doing nightly readings from the Book of John and the drive-through. So once again, we're having to adapt. Everybody's having to do something a little bit different, but it doesn't seem like anybody's putting their head in the sand and calling it quits. They're just trying to find different ways to reach people and to be helpful, which is nice. What about like the town supervisors or are you finding anything in the towns as far as being getting information out to people, running as smoothly as possible? I know I've talked to a couple of them, but again, I don't follow them as closely as you have.
Right. I think all the municipalities have been very good about keeping things updated. I think especially Lysander, not to play favorites or anything, but Bob Wicks he contacted me the Friday before the schools shut down and said, we're working on an emergency plan. This is what we're doing. And so his office has been very open with what needs to be done. And Van Buren and Baldwinsville have also sent out updates. So not to discredit them, but
No.
it's
Yeah, I do think that Bob
people are
has
doing
that.
their best and they're really
Yeah.
getting the info out.
And Bob Wicks has a little bit of a background in
Right.
security and things. So, I mean, that kind of comes into play too, as far as getting ahead of it. And from what I understand, all three of them are working pretty well together, which is nice, you know, and that may be common, that might be uncommon. I have no idea, but in a time like this, it's nice to know that in Baldwinsville, we have three different pieces and they're all working together, just like the community's working together and the restaurants are working together. I'm such a Baldwinsville dork. I tell you that all the time, that it's just, you know, everything that I thought about this community has literally come to life, unfortunately, in this pandemic, you know? So, I mean, there are, we talked about a little bit briefly, there are some people that are not following the rules, and, you know, you always have that, you know, but.
Yep. You and I talked about the tailgaters in Radisson that got busted by the county executive. He called them out.
My beautiful neighborhood.
Backyard.
Come on. How can you not tailgate in a beautiful neighborhood like this?
It's tempting. And let me tell you, it's so hard. It's hard not really being able to even talk to my neighbors, because in my building, there's a fair number of older people. So I've been trying to keep in touch with them via phone, but it's hard knowing that they're literally downstairs and I should not go talk to them in person because I don't want to spread any germs to them and they don't want to spread any germs to me. It's hard not being able to go see my parents. It was hard to talk to my sister and say, well, maybe you shouldn't come visit right now because she lives in another state. But these are all sacrifices that we have to make to flatten the curve and try to keep our community as healthy as possible. And, you know, New York is really the epicenter of the COVID pandemic in our country, especially New York City, but it doesn't mean it's not happening up here. I mean, there's
it can come up here.
300 cases in Onondaga County. So it's a hard time. It's hard to not go to Lovely Nails and get my fill. It's hard to.
My jelly have to come off. I know.
You know, it's hard to not see our families. It's hard to not go to the businesses that we go to. You know, it's tough working from home 100% remote, and my husband is home from his job as well. So, you know, navigating each other's schedules. We're not used to being around each other like all day during the workday. But these are sacrifices that we have to make. And for the most part, it seems like people are committing and they're doing their part.
Yeah, my son one time asked if he could go play football, and I said, I don't know how you're going to tackle somebody if you can't actually touch them, which is close to what they said about basketball. You know, how you gonna play basketball? But I know what you mean. My brother's alone in Pittsburgh. He wanted to come up for Easter, and I said, hopefully you can, but as of right now, no. And I have clients that live in an apartment, and even before they said we couldn't show homes, you know, because everything's shut down in real estate as well. Their neighbors are in their 80s, and they just said, we're not comfortable, you know, having anybody come in and out because you have to come in. And so I think a lot of people are aware. They know what needs to happen. I also think that people have more consideration for other people than they do for themselves, thinking, you know, I'll be fine, but I don't want
to. And I'm guilty of thinking that myself because I'm young and relatively healthy, but I've been worried about my neighbors. I've been worried about my family members. So I keep thinking, I think all of us have been thinking, oh, I'm not the one to get sick, but my grandmother might, or my boss might. And it's like, well, I mean, they're finding cases in teenagers when even initially they thought that it wasn't really affecting children. So all of us are at risk. So all of us need to maintain social distancing and wash our hands. And the few times I've gone out in the last couple of weeks, I've like practically emptied a bottle of hand sanitizer. I got like those little Bath and Body Works ones. And it's tough. Like my hands are a little bit chapped right now, but beats the alternative.
Right. I never thought that all the hand sanitizers that my daughter bought every time she went to Destiny Mall would ever come in handy. We had
right. I have a drawer full of them, and I'm like, I'm never gonna finish these. And now I'm like hoarding them. Like
I told her, I'm like, well, this is how we're gonna pay for your college, honey. Just stand outside and as people drive by. So but I appreciate you coming and talking with me today. I definitely miss seeing you around Baldwinsville. You drive through the village and it really is just an empty, the library, nobody in the parking lot. It's just,
well, I went grocery shopping at Wegmans in DeWitt yesterday, and there's a fair number of people, but like on the roads, the parking lots, like it's like a zombie movie. It's kind of scary.
Mm-hmm.
And like,
yeah,
the first week or so, it wasn't like, it didn't quite register with me because I was used to working from home, and I was like, oh, well, it's fine. It's not that different. But when I did go out and look around, it was kind of scary. And it really started to sink in, like, this is real. People really had to grind to a halt to flatten the curve and make it happen.
Yeah. And I agree with you. Contrary to all the cars that suddenly decided to drive past my house, there hasn't been like hardly
the live stream was, and they're like, quick, go.
So, well, I can't wait till I actually see you in Baldwinsville again.
I know, I can't.
You know,
I'm getting a little cooped up, but you know, it's what we need to do, and I'm doing my best to keep people informed of what's going on with the shutdown, and even trying to report some news that's non-COVID related, which is refreshing, I think, for all of us. It's nice for me to not have to post another story about this thing is closed and this thing is closed. But I'm hoping soon to have a feature about the Baldwinsville Volunteer Center's Man and Woman Volunteer of the Year. And
that's true. That's coming.
They are going to have to postpone their dinner, I believe, but they are still going to honor their volunteers later in the year. This is in North Syracuse, but for the Star Review, I did a story this week on the North Syracuse Early Education Program. They're going to build a playground this summer, so it was nice to talk to someone about something besides coronavirus for once, because that's like all we've been inundated with for weeks now, and it's nice to do something different. And I think people would like to see something different once in a while.
And I want to mention too, I talked to you about it earlier, but you had put on social media for people to share pictures of what their kids were doing, whether it was a homeschooling, an activity, and something. I did try to share a picture of my daughter baking, but she kept sticking her tongue out at me. So as much as I thought, I did not, because she's 15 and kill me. But it was nice to see all those pictures in the school district in Baldwinsville. They did
really,
something
like, hyped me up to because I posted it in the Baldwinsville Helping Baldwinsville group asking for photos, and I got so many submissions. I'm going to make a gallery and put it on our website. But I got people playing with their pets. I got people studying, you know, siblings doing homeschool together, people getting out in nature and going for walks. Just, I love all the chalk drawings that people are doing in their neighborhoods so that you can still go on a walk with your family as long as you're staying away from your neighbors, but you can still spread a little cheer, and it's really nice to see.
Yeah, and I've seen more neighbors talk to each other from a front door and a driveway, just walking past, who maybe in the past everyone was so busy getting from point A to point B, it might have been a quick wave, as opposed to, again, safe distancing, but it is nice. And they're checking on their neighbors up too. So, no,
I think we live in a time where it is hard to know who your neighbors are and to converse with them, but even in this time of physical distance, it is really heartwarming to see that people are still able to connect and care about each other and check in with each other.
Yeah. And you know what? I think we needed that a little bit, because we were social distancing because we were so far behind our phones and our computers and our laptops, you know, that now it's a physical social distancing, and it's actually bringing it might sound silly, but it's actually bringing us a little bit closer together because we are interacting with people. I talked to friends in Pittsburgh. I never Zoomed call them before. Why would I Zoom? Why would I have Zoom called them?
Right. Like I've been FaceTiming friends, and my nephew's FaceTimed me a couple times in the past week. So I, as an introvert myself, I thought, oh, this will be fine. This will be great. And frankly, it hasn't been fine and great. And, in the last few days, especially, I've been struggling, not seeing people's faces, not going to work and like hearing my coworkers, like as much as I'll whine about it during regular times where I'm like, oh, I wish they would shut their door while I'm on the phone. But it's like, I miss hearing other people's voices, and I miss seeing people, and I miss like going to stuff in Beeville and Liverpool and, actually like seeing a real person and communicating with them. I mean, I'm still communicating a lot with local leaders and people for story ideas, but it's not quite the same.
No, it's not. Even I know the Greater Baldwinsville Chamber, they're virtual coffee talks and things, and it's nice, and we'll take it. But I can't wait until the day somebody hosts it and we actually walk through the door again. And
right.
So
yeah,
but it'll come. But like you said, if we don't flatten the curve and we don't do the social distancing, this could go on a lot longer than it needs to. So
yeah,
it'll be nice.
I saw on Facebook someone posted something that was like, this is like a group project. We're all being graded together. You need to sit down and stay home because like we're all in this together.
Yeah. You'd mentioned earlier, a little bit of a control freak. I'm a little bit of a control freak, and we don't have control over, what society does or doesn't do. We're just, we can do what we do and
sure,
try and.
It's tough. Yeah. You and I talked earlier a little bit about, although much of my job was remote before, I was still able to go into the office a couple times a week and access our layout software and lay out most of the Baldwinsville paper myself. And now our managing editor, Jen, has been doing all of the layout, and she is a rock star for it. But I'm also struggling a little bit with that loss of control. I'm like, well, I wanted to pick which family of the week it was, or I would have put that photo in a different spot. And she's doing an awesome job, but I know she's struggling being at home too, and not having quite the same facilities that we have in the office, and not being able to just shout across the cubicle divider at our graphics director and say, hey, did you drop that ad in? And it's an adjustment for everybody.
It is. And there might be a little bit of stress on her making sure, because she wants to make sure you like it after you submit it.
Right.
And, so it definitely is interesting. I'm half laughing, Ashley, because literally since I sat here, I've had a plane, a train, and automobiles. Have you heard all three of them? Did you hear the plane? No, the plane. So that's why when I smiled a little bit ago,
I'm focused on our conversation. I'm used to drowning out background noise. Like,
yeah. I love sitting outside, and I love all the different noises, and that's not a luxury that we typically have. So again, I'm trying to find that silver lining, like to sit outside, right, to be able to work, to Zoom call and stuff. So I can't even tell you how much I appreciate you taking the time and the technology difficulties we were having earlier.
Yeah, we had quite some travails and tribulations. So
yeah. I love technology until I don't. So
right?
But now I love it.
It's great until it's not.
I mean, I hope that this is something that wraps up sooner than later. But if it does go on for a while, I may reach out to you again just to say, what's going on in the Eagle newspaper front, and
sure,
and for the updates, because we do miss you. I mean, I see you on social media, but it's not really the same. Your name might be something that I see more than my kids' newspapers.
Well, thank you, Kelly. It's nice to know I'm missed.
Yes, you are. Well, thank you. We do love you here. Okay. Well, if people have questions and reach out later, I'll let you know, and maybe you can give answers to them. But I think for the most part, it's just nice to see that you are still here, and you're covering stuff for us, and you're on social media, and we will hopefully see you soon.
Yes,
Okay.
I hope so. So flatten the curve, everybody. Stay well.